What's up, everybody? I'm Jessekazam. Welcome back to another Escape from Tarkov video. In this video, we're talking about the new Class 5 armor that you can buy from Prapor for about 100,000 rubles, the Korund armor. And then ultimately some misconceptions that you may have about how armor works and how effective armor is as its durability goes down. I stream Escape from Tarkov on Twitch. All my links will be down below. I'd love to have you stop by and say hey. And if you like the video, think about dropping a like, commenting down below, or subscribing to the channel for more content like this. All that stuff really helps me out. So thank you to those that do that. But with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and dive right in. So like we said, we're talking about the Korund armor here, and the reason that I wanted to do this video is because I have been getting a lot of comments recently on my streams and stuff like that about this armor specifically, and a lot of that ends up being misconceptions about how armor works. Briefly, we can go over just why a lot of people have been running this armor. It is a class 5 armor, which is great. It is made out of armor steel, which repairs really well. It repairs cheaply, and you get almost all of the durability back. And the price of these things is pretty amazing when you consider that it's less than 100,000 rubles, fresh, brand new from Prapor. Now, the downsides is that, of course, it only starts with 45 durability, which is relatively low for a class 5 armor. So the more you repair it, you know what I mean, the lower that durability is going to be. And I think that's when we start to get into some of these kind of misconceptions. Now, a lot of people will talk about it's, you know, once it gets under 30 or 40, once it gets under 40 durability, it's not worth using at all. A lot of people have said it becomes effectively a class 4 armor once it gets down to 37, 38, 39 durability. It's not worth taking. I've had countless times me taking it off of a body and people telling me to ditch it and dump it because it's not worth it and it's not going to be a class 5 armor anymore. So I wanted to kind of break down a little bit of why some of those things that a lot of people think might be a little wrong. And it makes sense. The game's armor system is much more complicated than people realize. And the game does not in any way, shape, or form educate us on what those intricacies are. Huge shout out to the guys from the wiki who data mine this stuff. No Food After Midnight is a content creator that almost like pioneered digging in and pulling out a lot of this information from the ballistic system and the armor system. He's got like a blog post that talks about it. And then Veritas has also done a really intricate deep dive video on ballistics and armor. And he has created the Battle Buddy app, which I think ultimately is, through this video, the best resource players can use, because using the app allows you to basically distill all the complicated information down to practical questions and answers. Is this armor still effective at this durability? We can just check that out, and I don't have to learn all about everything, because what the material that the armor is made out of, what are the movement speed penalties? How does it repair? How do ballistics work when it gets shot? How much of that damage is absorbed by the armor? How much of it goes through the armor? How much it gets kind of crazy. So the Battle Buddy app really is kind of a blend between the two, where we don't have to oversimplify, but we can learn specific use cases. And I think that's what's happened, is that major oversimplifications of how the armor system work have led to misconceptions and information just being basically distributed, where it's like the common one I get is that once it gets under 40 durability, it becomes a class 4 armor effectively. Or once an armor gets damaged, it becomes a class 4, or if a 4 gets damaged, it becomes a class 3. And we can dive into why that's not true. So if we start with just the Korund armor and how it compares to other class 5 armors and stuff like that, we can just go to the learn section of the Battle Buddy app, click on the penetration chance thing, and basically create a simulation here. Now, I use 55A1 for these tests, and the reason for that being is that 55A1 for the 5.56 caliber has 43 pen and 45 damage. 43 pen is a good place to be to test this out, because the way armor works, and we will show examples of this later, is that if a round has over 50 pen, if it has 56, 57 pen, chances are that ammo is just going to ignore the armor. When it pens, it basically just ignores the armor. That's why rounds with like 60 or 70 pen, basically all armor in the game is rendered effectively useless. So When you put on armor, the point of putting on that armor is that you hope that your enemy shoots you with a round that penetrates, has less pen than the armor value that you have, the class, and then that will absorb a certain amount of shots based on the durability, which we're about to dive into. So 5.5A1 is a good round because there's not too many rounds in the like 40, the mid 40s, which is kind of what you're hoping for, that the top end of what you're gonna tank with a class 5 armor. If I used a round for these examples with 32 pen, it would take forever to, you know, destroy the armor. If I used a round like BS or Igolnik or something, 995, it just renders the armor useless, just like it would render a Gen 4 or a Killa armor useless as well. And 5.56 is a really common caliber. It's a really common round. So I feel like that's good for this example here. So using 5.5A1, we can just select that, and then we can pull up the Korund armor. Now you can see that it has a 23% chance to pen that armor. Now just right off the bat, we can show that the durability of the armor doesn't affect the pen chance for the first shot. So I can pull up a Gen 4 armor, and it has a 23% chance to pen a Gen 4 armor. I can pull up the Kill armor, the 6B13 armor, 23.7 chance to pen. So that initial shot has the same chance to pen no matter what the durability is of the armor. Now, the durability is going to determine how many shots that armor is going to tank of that round. So once again, 5.5A1, if like best case scenario when none of these penetrate, it's going to tank 1, 2, 3, 4 rounds before it's going to take 4 rounds to completely zero that armor out. And then we can kind of work through and go through the Gen 4 and see what the durability is. So that 75 durability, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 shots to zero out that armor. So we can see that the class 5 is going to give you the same percent chance to tank a shot for any round that has, you know, underneath that pen value of 50. Now we're trying to keep this relatively simple. So of course there's a chance that a round pens, like that's why that 23% chance, if we go up higher to, you know, 49 pen with a round, it's going to have a higher chance to pen. You're not guaranteed to tank those. But the point is that the starting durability of an armor doesn't affect the chance to tank that initial round. It's affecting how many rounds it can tank. And when I say that, I mean the fresh starting durability of a brand new armor. As we'll see in just a second when we go through some of these, is that when an armor is damaged, that's when, because it's damaged, it's going to affect those percent chances of shooting. So a Gen 4 Assault that's damaged from 75 to 60 and a Korund that's damaged from 45 to 30, 39 are going to have different percent chances. But when it's fresh, when that armor is fresh, even if a Gen 4 is 75 and a Korund is 45, it's still that 23% chance to pen on that first shot. And we'll kind of go through what happens when an armor is damaged in a second, which doesn't necessarily make the Korund good or bad. That's just where it sits, right? It's a cheaper armor. You don't want this armor that repairs really well and is class 5 to have 100 durability and tank a bunch of rounds. That's kind of where it's supposed to sit. So it's up to you to then decide, is that armor worth it? Do I want to use an armor that I can get cheaply or more readily available? It's going to tank less shots, but it's still going to maybe get me away from that engagement. We can kind of work this through. The Killa armor takes 7 shots to 0, similar to the Gen 4. The Gazelle, which I have here, takes 4 shots to 0. So this has a 65 durability, but it's made out of a different material. And so that breaks a little bit easier. So even though it has a higher total durability of 65 when you purchase it, it takes 4 shots as well. So even the durability doesn't tell the whole story because certain materials break easier. And then we get into, once again, ammos have certain different values of armor damage, and we'll break those things easier. It's really complicated. The game does not share any of those information. But we can start by doing that, by saying, okay, well, how does the Korund armor stack up to other class 5 armors? Same chance to tank the first shot of a round, and it's just going to break faster because of its lower durability. Now, once again, we can take this exact example and throw in a round like M62. We were talking about this a little bit earlier. And you can see that on the Gen 4, it has a 94% chance to pen. And that's because M62 has 54 penetration. So it is most likely going to pen that round. Of course, there's still a chance. And once again, just to prove that point, if we switch over to the Korund armor, it has a 94% chance to pen that armor too. So that's why we're using a round within the between 40 and 50 for these examples. And that's also why that's, in my opinion, another potential pro in the Korund category is that because this armor is cheaper and more readily available because you can purchase it from traders, if you think that most players are going to be rocking the highest tier rounds, if you're experiencing combat where most of the PvP you're getting into is BS, Igolnik, or M62 or M61, those rounds are just ignoring your armor anyway. A 94% chance to pen, even if you spent big money on a brand new Gen 4, if you spend big money on a kill armor off the flea market, it's going to have the same percent chance to pen anyway. So you can be much more protected against scavs and lower gear players by using something like a Korund, because they might be using ammo with way less pen and your armor can tank a ton more shots. So now we can compare it to a class 4. Now, if we use that same 5.5A1 round with 43, this is a similar example, and we switch over to a trooper, which is a class 4 armor with a ton of durability, 85 durability, just like the M62 versus the class 5 armor, the 5.5A1 has a 94% chance to pen that trooper armor because it has over 40 pen. It's got 43. So it's got that 93% chance. So now that we kind of understand the Korund armor, its value proposition, how it compares to other armors, and how its durability is really the thing that is the biggest con for it, we can then extrapolate out that, once again, the biggest thing I've seen is when it gets destroyed, once you've repaired it a few times, just like this one, this effectively becomes a class 4 armor. Using this tool, we can actually look and basically create these situations where we see that the Korund armor has, with 5.5A1, has a 23% chance at full durability. So this other armor that I've got right here, I've repaired a few times maybe, or I pull it off a player that had that repaired it once or twice, and then I repaired it. If we just slide this durability slider down to 39, we could round this up to 40, but we'll actually round it down to 39. It goes from a 23% chance to pen to a 32% chance to pen. Now remember, we just said that this same round, 5.5A1, has a 94% chance to pen a trooper with 85 durability. But this busted Korund at 39 out of 45 durability, still, it only has a 32% chance to pen. Let's drop it even more. We can drop it all the way down to 30 durability. And this has a 53, the shot has a 53% chance to pen, which means the armor has a 47% chance to tank that round. And the trooper armor, it has a 6% chance to tank that round. So I'm not necessarily saying that you should be going out and scooping up all the Korunds and using them at 30 durability, but I think this is just an important distinction that a class 5 armor, even as it gets repaired a few times, is still a class 5 armor. It is not a class 4 armor. You know what I mean? You would have to put this down to 18 or 19 durability to get the same first shot pen chance out of 5.5A1. Now, of course, that doesn't tell the whole story, which is why I highly recommend you kind of diving in if you have any questions and using the app to do this, because I kind of went through a few more simulations just to show a point, right? Because, you know, an 18 or 19 durability Korund, you know, to have the same percent chance for the 5.5A1 to pen doesn't tell everything, because at only 18 or 19 durability, your ability to tank shots is so minimal, and a larger durability class 4 armor like a trooper, if we're talking about rounds that have lower pen, that 85 durability trooper is going to be able to tank more lower pen rounds than an 18 durability or a 20 durability or a 30 durability Korund. But that's when like certain what armors are made out of comes into play. So I just did like another simulation really quickly earlier where a BT, which is another really common caliber or a really common round that has less than 40 pen, it's got 37 pen. a trooper armor, that round has about a 50% chance to pen on the first shot because it's got in the high 30s, 37 pen. But let's just say that the armor tanks every shot. It would take 14 rounds of BT to zero out a trooper. And you'd think, oh, well, then a Gen 4 with a class 5, it's going to take way more. Now, the class 5, it has a much lower percent chance to pen at about a 1.2% chance to pen on the first shot. But because of what the Gen 4 is made out of, the BT will actually zero the Gen 4 in 9 shots. So with a trooper, you're likely not going to tank 14 shots, right? Because you're going to be dead. It's going to have penned before then. But that just goes to show you that what the armors are made out of actually tell a different story. And then a Korund that's damaged down to about like 30 to 33 durability is only going to tank 3 of those BT shots before that armor's zeroed. So once again, it is a tangled web of what does the armor made out of? What is the percent chance to pen? Of course, that doesn't tell the whole story of just like, oh yeah, use a Korund down to 18 durability. But this is why I highly, highly recommend you diving in. And if you have any questions, resources like the Battle Buddy app are a great way to learn more about this kind of stuff. Now, we've been throwing a lot of numbers out, and I said at the beginning that the point of the video wasn't to confuse, but to simplify. So let's just kind of like go through some of the findings. So a Class 5 armor does not become a Class 4 armor once it gets damaged a little bit. There's more to it than that. And if you really want to dive in, you're going to have to do those tests on how much a super damaged armor is going to tank versus not. But when you're talking about rounds that will traditionally pen a Class 4 armor, they're most likely still going to get tanked by a Class 5 armor even when it's damaged. So that was misconception number 1. And then number 2 is that for all intents and purposes, the Korund armor damaged down to 37, 38, 39 durability is so close to the performance that you're going to get out of a 45 durability Korund. And that's because it repairs really, really well. And the difference there of just a few durability doesn't make that much of a difference on percent chance to pen or shots to zero the armor. So those are the 2 misconceptions I really wanted to clear up here. Now, all this goes back to my other armor video that I did, which is about your expectation for what armor you want to run. If you're running up against people nonstop, running into M62, M61, 995, BS, a Golnik, your Class 5 armor doesn't matter anyway. And if you're running into tons of more scavs and lower gear player, then your Class 5 armor is going to shine whether it's a Korund or whether it's a Gen 4. So it's really up to you to decide what you like to do, what you like to run, and how much you like to spend on armor. I hope that at the end of the day, we were able to clear up some misconceptions and give you tools like the Battle Buddy, remind you that these exist, that you can go as deep or as shallow as you want to go. There are still some generalizations that you can abide by and some things that you can learn, but sometimes these oversimplifications can create some weird misconceptions. There's tools for you. You can go as deep or as shallow as you want to go and still have fun in the game. Play the game the way you want to play. But hopefully this maybe taught you a few things and gave you a little bit of confidence in making your decisions and what armors you want to use, take, and buy in Escape from Tarkov. Thank you again, as always, for taking the time to check out this video. If I missed anything or if there's anything you'd like to add to this conversation about armor and Escape from Tarkov, please drop those comments down below. It's something that we all deal with when we're playing the game, so it's super important for everybody to kind of understand how it all works. Like we said before, I stream Escape from Tarkov on Twitch. I'd love to have you stop by and say hey. That link is down below. And if you're looking for people to play with, the Discord link is down below as well. We've got a few thousand people in there, from Tarkov veterans to newer players looking for group channels. And a lot of times people are super down to help you with quests or just get some raids in. Thank you again, as always, for stopping by, and I will definitely see y'all on the next one.